The last two were pretty intense nonfiction, so I took a little bit of a break, a sports break with this one. I read You Heard Me by Colin Cowherd. The subtitle here is called I'll Say It If Nobody Else Will. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I wrote this about it after reading. I really enjoy Colin on the radio. I vibe with the way he strings together metaphors as a stream of consciousness. On the air, it feels like it's his natural way of storytelling. He talks about the fact that the reason his show is so tight is because he's written and rehearsed. He talks about the fact that all of the best stuff is. Reading this book revealed what I already know about his voice talent and the way he makes his written notes sound colloquial. He's a master at that craft. Early on in this book, I was hindered by the fact that my reading voice doesn't have the same knack for conversational flow that Colin does live. The story capsules felt stilted and gimmicky, but I think it's just because I'm a plodding reader that compartmentalizes things sentence by sentence. I did warm to the mechanism as I got further along, but that could be just because I enjoyed the content of the capsules more in the later stages of the book. I can't be sure. I'll still be a great fan of his talk, but I don't think that I'll read him again. If you like the show, it is possible that it might work better for you than it did for me. My takeaway was that the book revealed a peek behind the stage curtain that I didn't want to see. Also, beware that the 2013 copyright of the book makes many of the opinions and takes come off dated. And that's amazing that I read it in 2016 and in 2013, it already felt dated, which if you read some of the reviews on Goodreads, a lot of people are saying that as well. It just shows you how fast everything is moving. I think it's interesting too to consider that Colin was on, I think, ESPN radio at this time. He now has a show on FS1. He does a lot of videos just like this, a lot of shorts as well. Not necessarily the same way that I'm talking about here. He talks about the fact that the reason his show is so tight is because he's written and rehearsed. Well, some of the things are probably not that way, or maybe they are. Maybe that's just his thing. I think it's interesting now that with YouTube and shorts and TikTok and all these things, that some of the best stuff is not written and rehearsed. That maybe media has moved a little bit of a different direction than that. Maybe the written and rehearsed is something that is dated as well. I think maybe Colin would argue that even the best stuff that seems spontaneous or seems unscripted actually is. And that's what I think is great about Colin, is that he does write and rehearse a ton of his stuff. And he is fantastic at making that sound just like he's talking and telling you a story. I love the way he does things with metaphors. I totally dig that aspect of his sports talk radio, of his sports talk show. He's really bought into a lot of the things that have worked in terms of social media and social media content, in making lists, in making extreme takes that are with really shocking metaphors, things that you wouldn't necessarily think would ever go together. I love that about what he does. And thinking about him and Jim Rome and a number of the other sort of shocking sports hosts that are out there. Now we have Pat McAfee, which is a completely separate take that's completely, what I would say, devoid of the journalistic aspect of what you get from a talking head like Colin Cowherd. And he's, you know, a punter from Indianapolis doing awesome things, and everybody's watching him because, again, it feels less written and rehearsed. Definitely less stilted, but maybe more gimmicky. I still really love sports talk. I don't listen to it nearly as much as I did before. Part of the reason for that is because I don't have a commute anymore. I work remote. And when I was commuting, when I was doing sales and I was in the car a lot, I was listening to sports talk all the time. In 2016 here, I was in the car quite a bit for sales all around town, going up to all different places around the Portland area to sell different types of things. I sold landscape maintenance for a time. I sold management consulting, corporate training for a while. A lot of that had me in the car. And I love sports, all different kinds of sports. I believe Colin actually has roots here in the Pacific Northwest, probably Portland even specifically, but I've heard him talk about Portland pretty negatively. So I don't know if he was a big fan of it. One of the things that I also like about Colin is that when he makes a mistake, he will call himself out about it. And I appreciate how his mind approaches sports and how he communicates in a very entertaining way the sports landscape that's out there. So this was a break for me because we did one about mental health. We did one about grief. It was nice to take a break and read You Heard Me by Colin Cowherd. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Till next.